How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Transfer Deadline Show. I am here with Rob, RJP Journalism. You might know him by on Twitter. Rob, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. It's a hectic day and getting ready for multiple streams today. So it's already one down, and I've got 5 more to go.
Well, I appreciate you fitting us in. It's absolutely awesome to have you on. So let's kind of talk about where Chelsea are heading. 12 hours left in the window. It appears that the Aubameyang deal is sort of being finished up as we speak.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's the final bits of paperwork need sorting. It seems that they came to an agreement last night after long, protracted conversation between Chelsea and Barcelona over the last week. Complicated also by Aubameyang, the breaking into his home and the jaw injury, which had also meant that Chelsea did look at different ways to facilitate this deal. And also on the other side of it, Marcos Alonso wanting to move to Barcelona. But it does seem now that finally we've heard about all summer that Todd Boehly wants a swap deal to happen. And it does seem finally after, 6 billion tries, they've actually got one through. The cash sum, it ranges somewhere between 6 to 9 million euros based on what I've been told, which I don't think is too bad. Obviously, you will see from Chelsea's point of view, they will report the lower end of that spectrum. From Barcelona's point of view, it will be the higher end. So, as I always say to people, try not to worry too much about the finances. The only people that really will know that will be Chelsea, Barcelona, and those that have access to the TMS.
So just a quick thing. I know obviously Aubameyang has quite the track record in the Premier League. What kind of player? Obviously, we've seen him. We know who he is. Why was he the option for striker this window?
So partly there's sort of two reasons for this. Number one is his goal scoring record. Aubameyang does have a phenomenal goal scoring record in the Premier League, a very impressive record at Arsenal. For a lot of the time, he carried Arsenal during the more difficult periods. Chelsea have seen firsthand the damage he can do. Is the reason why Chelsea don't have one more FA Cup in their cabinet, for example. But he is also someone that Thomas Tuchel particularly likes. Again, he and Tuchel have a very close relationship, and it's always sort of been speculated that where Thomas Tuchel is, Aubameyang would like to go. And that has sort of, seems to have proven true. This is very much a Tuchel pick. This is very much him getting what he wants and what he says he needs to make the attack a success. So now it's more of an onus on Tuchel to ensure that works.
So moving on to defensive midfielder, and this is something that's really grown in steam supposedly in the last 24 hours. Edson Alvarez as well as Sangare are two options that have been brought to the table. I read maybe that Sangare's leaving depends on Gakpo. Could you fill us in with anything you know on that?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I'll refer to Rick Elfrich on this one, who is probably the de facto best journalist when it comes to PSV Eindhoven, and also to Mike Verwij, who is the sort of de facto equivalent on AFC Ajax. Regarding Sangare, first and foremost, Sangare had a release clause in his contract that was present up until I think about a month and a half ago, or possibly about a month ago, which was around 30 million euros. And multiple clubs looked at it. I know Chelsea looked at it, Liverpool looked at it, Manchester United looked at it, and all of them decided to wait and see what happened. So he's subsequently signed a new deal that does have another release clause, but I don't think it comes into effect until next summer. Chelsea have scouted him a lot, and there have been a lot of positive scout reports from him. And so they've decided to explore the option of making something happen. PSV, without getting Champions League football, need to sell one of him or Gakpo really to balance the books. They could continue with both of them, but it does then mean that they're under real financial pressure this season to do very, very well in the Eredivisie and do well in other European competition. Otherwise, they will, miss out on the revenue, and that can then have repercussions down the line. Now, obviously, from PSV's point of view, they're taking the hardline approach of saying we're not selling either of them. But I think if Chelsea did put, maybe 50 million euros on the table for Sangare, I'm told he would make the move. So it's whether Chelsea do choose to do that. Now, from what I understand, it's more likely to be Alvarez than Sangare because Alvarez is slightly more advanced. There's a feeling that Ajax will sell. Ajax today have signed Florian Grealish on a free transfer. He obviously left Hoffenheim in the summer, and he is a defensive midfielder, so he's a sort of de facto replacement, if you want to, take those terms into it. But from Alvarez's perspective, Chelsea have had interest in him before. They have scouted him in the past, albeit not for some time. But it does seem that they've, accentuated and sped up this process due to partly the injuries in the midfield and exacerbated by Ruben Loftus-Cheek picking up a muscular injury midweek. That at this time, I think they've said he might be okay for the weekend, but no one's 100% sure. And also Kovacic still recovering fitness, the issues with Jorginho's form, Conor Gallagher struggling to adapt, N'Golo Conte being injured, and Billy Gilmour seemingly not being in the plans of Thomas Tuchel. So it looks like Chelsea do want to try and make this happen. So now the clock is sort of ticking. They've got the offer in. It's not formally been accepted or rejected at this moment in time. So it's whether they can push and get everything done this afternoon. I will say that it's a situation where because he is in Holland and in the Netherlands, there is an option to go out and do the medical in Holland. There is options, to make medicals happen. There are options if they need to extend the deadline to request a deal sheet to, get things done past the deadline. So it is possible Chelsea can get something done. I think they'd like to get those two done. And then sort of anything else on top of that really is a bonus.
So I just wanted to ask, in your opinion, so it appeared that Tuchel in his post-game press conference, and now it might have been a bit tongue-in-cheek, a couple weeks ago had said that the midfield group was fine. Do you think that Chelsea were prepared to stand pat before kind of this injury crisis kind of broke out?
I don't know. I mean, I've always been of the opinion all summer, and I've said this in every single time, that Chelsea have been hunting a midfield solution and have been looking for midfielders all summer. And it's been more of a case that they want to avoid a situation a bit like they had with Bakayoko or Drinkwater a few years ago, where they spend an awful lot of money on someone that doesn't work out, and then effectively that's a net loss in the books. Now, Alvarez and Sangare both represent their own, question marks in that they're both coming from the Eredivisie. They're both coming from very good sides in the Eredivisie, and so naturally they're going to be dominant in those divisions. However, both of them have impressed in the Champions League and also in the Europa League. So you do have an element of reference point there. I do think it is quite interesting that Chelsea were more prepared to sit on the midfield and wait and see what happens before what happened against Southampton. But then I think the nature of the performance against Southampton, in particular, the second goal conceded against Southampton, where the midfield was sort of just run through, and the second half performance, I think, has probably spurred the club on to want to make something happen.
So now to a little bit of nuggets and tidbits. It looks like Mbuyamba has moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And then Billy Gilmour's deal is kind of in flux right now, potentially with Brighton.
Yeah, it's sort of in limbo. Gilmour wants to go. Tuchel said he's happy for him to go. Todd Boehly at the moment is blocking it, but I think that's more of a case that he's blocking it for the numbers situation. And I think if Alvarez does come through and does get sorted, then Chelsea will let Billy Gilmour go. They do also have some loan options on the table, so it's possible maybe they will decide, even if they bring in Alvarez, no, we still want to loan the player. But that would go against what Thomas Tuchel is sort of saying, and that Tuchel's made it very clear he doesn't feel Gilmour is strong enough, he is tall enough for his midfield plans.
So overall for Chelsea's window, I know it's deadline day. I know there's a little bit of time left. But assuming Aubameyang comes in, because Alvarez isn't next totally advanced, do you think Todd Boehly and Tuchel will be pleased with their first window?
I think probably. I'd say that I think, I'll work on the basis that both Aubameyang and Alvarez will come in because I think Chelsea will get a defence midfielder over the line. And I think they'll be very determined to try and get it over the line. I think if that does happen, I think he's got no reason to not be pleased. He's got a lot of his choices this window. Fofana, one of his first choice defensive solutions. Sterling, his first choice attacking solution. He got what he wanted with Romelu Lukaku leaving the club. He has got what he wanted with certain other players going out on loan. The club have very much backed him and very much made it clear they're backing him. And they've also started talks over a new contract, which shows that wider level of commitment. Now, I think now the case is probably to the club saying, well, we've said to you this window, once it's done, we'll get a director of football in. They will manage this from now on. We know you'd rather be a coach. Now it's your job to go and coach the best out of players.
Excellent. Well, Rob, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking a little bit of transfers with me. It was really great to have you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure.